Welcome back to the FixedOps Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today, Ted, a lot of conversations have been centered on fixed operations and the importance of data, and we have Axle Automotive with us for this discussion.
Sarah, you're so right. And not just anybody from Axle Automotive. We got Prasad Chavali, who's the founder and CEO. Prasad, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Oh, thanks to be with you guys.
Your company is involved in a whole lot right now going on in dealerships. And you're really giving dealerships an unfair advantage of controlling their data in one place. So I think one of the words Sarah and I have been using a lot is efficiency, and you're helping dealers with that. So I want to get started because we've got some questions to ask. And uh, Prasad, if it's okay, let's start with tell us a little bit about what actually Axle One does for dealerships and the fixed operations side of the business.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's really difficult to explain our product in a couple of sentences because that's why the word Axle One is we're trying to bring all the data into one place. So if you take the fixed ops, they're using a software for making appointments, they're using a software for time clock hours, they're using another software to write the ROs. And sometimes it's not just one software, it's like maybe three or four different pieces of software they're using. And these guys are focused on turning the cars and writing ROs, not trying to connect to Excel and run reports and see where they're, doing well or not. And some of them do really well. There's a lot of data marts and things like that. But our goal was to kind of bring the data all into one place, connect it and present it in a simple way. As simple as I log in today morning as a service advisor and I go, wow, my customer pay is at $143 this month. I should be at 145. What should I do? Instead of having to go run like 5 reports and ask somebody or call IT and say, can you give me the data? So to make it simply accessible, so what we call it is activating the data. So data exists in a lot of places, right? Who can get access to it and how they can actually use it is where the magic happens. So our focus is we actually get the data from every possible source. Sometimes even like 10 different systems in a dealership, like a DMS, CRM, scheduling software, Xtime, everything, like even texting platforms, customer CRM, like the CDPs. Once you get all the data, there is a lot of redundancy, right? So again, as I said in the fixed ops, you want the techs to be working on, the actual hours on the job to be as short as possible, not actually looking at the data and see what they're doing. So just to give you an example, we analyzed the data for like 7 years of autos and started bringing up data saying that which tech does which line item really efficient based on how many actual hours they recorded. So would
Hmm.
you rather give him that work or would you put him on something he's not really good at? Right. And instead of it being a whim, data can really help you to make, force that decision and say, this guy can change the transmission in X amount of time. Maybe we should put like four of them in the schedule for this week. Right. So that's where finding, it's almost like finding data to increase your efficiency. You used that word earlier. Creating that efficiency requires the data, and analyzing the data the right way is where the Axe One's focus has been. And luckily, I had a couple of really good um, customer counterparts that helped me build the fixed ops side of the business. They're like the fixed ops directors of the group. One is like a 30 store group, another 8 store group. And they'll come and challenge me and ask me a question. I said, hey, can you tell me what was my record month for customer pay in the last 18 months? And we would pull it up on the fly, and then they'll go, oh, that was last July. What did we do to kind of achieve that? And why are we not getting back to that? Can we look at some other parameters to kind of, replicate the magic from July 2025, right? So when people ask me those kind of questions, that's where we go, do we have the data? How quickly we can give it to them? And how can they use it to start making some, decisions without waiting until end of the month or waiting for the financial statement to close? So I know it's a long explanation, but getting the data is the first big lift, and analyzing them and giving all these KPIs the guys look for, and giving that really easy accessible so they can start reacting to it on a daily basis.
Prasad, you just touched on so many different components in discussing, Axle, and I think, I heard several different components that really stood out to me, and would especially stand out to fixed operations directors. You said technician efficiency specific to a type of job that they're doing, and then you
Mhm.
also referenced how service directors of multi-store groups are asking these questions going back 18 months, and they're looking at all these different specific data points. So how much data are you collecting to specifically help improve fixed operations?
Wow, we actually go 7 years of historic data. And, dealerships can, groups actually add dealerships, sometimes they, change or, hands and stuff like that. So we're keeping historic data for 7 years.
Hmm.
So once you close a month, the data doesn't change, right? So you can actually analyze historic data and keep those KPIs really handy. So you don't need to crunch the numbers every time, right? So only this month's data is kind of more dynamic. And then all the historic data could be, you know, very easily accessible and say, what was my effective labor rate from July 2024? It's already calculated in there, right? So we kind of kept the summary data, all the critical component data for 7 years. So you can ask all kinds of questions to that data.
Wow. I'm curious, Prasad, what kind of KPIs are current groups looking for? Can you give us maybe an example or two or three? And why are those KPI? Why are they so critical?
Everybody actually filling in the appointments, right? Once you set the appointments, it's not said and done. There is so much happens after an appointment is set, right? What did we sell? What are the decline services? The KPIs are even like effective labor rate on customer pay and extended warranty. Are we giving away too much? One of the KPIs is how many cars are we servicing again? Are a repair order is opened again? So if the technician doesn't do a job well, the second RO, you're either comping it, or you're not charging them, or somebody's eating it, right?
Sure.
So one of the KPIs is what's my uh, percentage. It's like less than 5% should be policy work or comp work. So as soon as it goes above that KPI, you don't have to run the report to get it. It has to be on in front. And as long as it's below normal, you don't even need to worry about it. You don't need to run the report and looking at it. So what we're trying to do is proactively, the minute it gets to that threshold, we ask the dealership and say, hey, what's your threshold? And the minute they say 5%, as soon as it starts coming close to it, the system will start alerting and say, maybe yeah, you need to look at it, right? The other one that really surprised me, one of the groups said, how many tires are we selling? It's not just about tires. I think that selling tires has a loyalty factor. That
Mhm.
means they trust the dealership to buy tires from you instead of just going, down to the 100 tire dealerships out there, right? So he said, my group's goal is 7%. So of all the cars coming in, 7% of the cars I would like to sell tires.
Hmm.
So we have to build this KPI and a report across group wide to see which advisor is actually pushing tires and which one is not. So we ran the report and it showed about $150,000 of lost opportunity by just not even offering tires when it was actually could have, right? So people think that fancy charts and all those things will actually executive dashboards and all those things are good, but when it comes down to the people that look after the money and the bottom line, they look at that much detail. And then you
Hmm.
start going through the detail and say, which store, why are these guys constantly hitting their goal and which guy these guys not? And the factor was somebody in that store ended up marking the tires a little too much. And nowadays with the internet, everybody's compare shopping, right? Even if it's $5 more, they're like, oh, the dealer is gouging me, so they'll go somewhere, right? It wasn't true because the price was pretty much the same, plus or minus a few, pennies. So these are the kind of hidden nuggets that you need to look at and say, you're not selling the tires because people are not coming to buy. There was somebody that didn't mark them right. So these are the kind of KPIs people ask, And before I asked them, before we had Axel One, what they used to do, they used to go into DMS, export into like an Excel, and ask somebody to say, "Hey, can you sort it out and calculate these averages and give me some kind of a numbers?" And there are people that still analyze this raw data and trying to find those KPIs. So we're trying to make their job easy. So instead of them becoming a programmers, they can focus on what they do best, which is doing more revenue in their fixed up side.
And Prasad, one of the biggest components that Axel also helps with, and Ted and I have had lots of conversations about this because it really is integrated into not only our customers' way of doing business and learning information, but AI is impacting the way that service and parts appointment conversions are being handled. So, how are you seeing AI help with the data analysis?
See, there are two sides of AI, right? There's the AI, which is like like the generative AI, which is the prompts, chat GPT stuff. We're not even on that side, right? We're more on the agentic side, which is, I don't want to use that word because, it's like a buzzword, but AI is not an afterthought. It's just a powerful tool to analyze your data much faster. So remember you asked me the question about how long, we have the data, 7 years, right? And if we start feeding into the AI engine, we should be able to ask AI the question and say, hey, give me my best service appointment closing date in the last 2 years. We don't have to run a report anymore. The AI could actually give you that answer within maybe 2 to 3 seconds. That is how AI revolutionizing is cutting down on the time to give you the data analysis that you had to feed it to something else and run a business BI report. That is the AI that's going to revolutionize the business, not the chat side of the, like I
Mhm.
don't want to, discredit the appointment setting and the automatic calls and all the stuff. That side of the business will eventually all, come to some kind of a stability. But data side of the AI is not easy. You have to feed that historic data. AI is like a child. You have to tell what the data means. How do you need to analyze? Where to find that data? So it's almost like a constant training process. We feel like we're in the kindergarten and first grade, to train AI models, and we keep finding more and more. And sort of, wow, like for example, I'll give you. If you say, "Give me my customer pay," put it as a chart for the last 6 months. We can do that, but you
Hmm.
need the data to do that. It cannot do in chat gpt. So the data is what makes that AI is going to be very powerful. And I would say we took the last 6 months to start looking at all. So what we did is we looked at all the KPIs people ask and say, if they're going to ask that KPI, what is the data you need to calculate it? So we need to go get that data and start feeding it to AI. So it's almost like reverse engineering to your question of what KPIs people are asking. So we have to ask the same thing. AI is going to not give you answers that are out of the blue, right? So what KPIs people are interested in, and can we give the data quickly, faster, and on the phone when you're walking and say, "Give me this number," and it has to kind of bring that number. So so yes, it's been a very learning experience for us on how to embrace the power of AI to make Axe One. That's where that you will see on our website, expert. The expert is where the data is going to be fed into the AI. So it's going to be expert. It's going to become more and more experience as we feed more data. Otherwise, it's just going to be a very simple AI, model. So
We're speaking today to Prasad Chavali. He's the founder and CEO of Axle Automotive. Axle Automotive helps dealers solve some very difficult pain points while creating operational efficiencies. And you hear him talking now about the data, and fixed ops is rich in data and using that data to help dealers, especially at this time when the focus now is so important on profitability. Prasad, I've got to ask you, what are some of the challenges that dealers are facing? We talk about operational efficiencies, but things such as activating service customers, using data analytics. What are some of the things that you're seeing? I know you'll be previewing a lot of this next week at NADA. We'll talk about that in a moment, but tell us a little bit more if you don't mind.
so Again, I think the challenges are not always the same, right? You've been through the last 5 years, and I keep asking the dealers, what are your current problems? One of them is retaining technicians,
Yeah.
right? Experienced technicians. It's almost like some of the groups have a job posting continuously for techs. It's like they don't never take down the job, the job posting. And I keep asking why. I said, it is really difficult to find them. And so if you find a really good one, how do you retain them? Right. So retaining text is like you need to like remember the one I said, you need to find what they're good at and
Yes.
maximize their compensation. What is this guy's good at? And if you can give him more jobs that he's gonna make more money, in terms of bonuses and stuff like that, that is where they stay. The second one is obviously culture, right? I'll talk about the customer side of it, but we talk more about the operational side because Axel One is more focused on the operational side. Because bringing the customers or retaining the customers is also part of the culture. If they know the technician is not going, is a very friendly guy in his video, he sends a really good reviews, he's not going to push anything, they build a bond. In fact, I think a lot of people want to go to the same service advisor, because they feel comfortable, right? So we need to start matching. If an advisor leaves, what do you do with those customers? Or if the tech is moved on to another store, how do you actually create that continuity, right? So so these requirements from the fixed ops are actually dictated by the dealers. So I spend a lot of time with the dealers listening to them. I'm not the one to solve the problem. We need to ask them what the problems are, and we can see if the data can solve that problem or not. So that's almost how I spend it, once a quarter, all my big customers, and say, what are the next challenges you're facing, right? Is it not having enough RO? And one of the fixed ops directors that I talked to, he said, Prasad, I can almost tell you my year ROs are probably 2% increase. And I
Hmm.
ran the report and I said, how do you know? He said, we're in this every day, right? And I said, so what are you looking for? And that's when he said, can you tell me how much we're charging for the tech, and also what are we paying in the actual payroll? So we actually connect the HR system to fixed
Wow.
ops,
Wow.
right? So they're paying the tech $35, and in the CDK or the DMS, they put it only at $32. They're actually losing $3 per hour. So we built a report called the exception report on what's the actual pay and what you put in the DMS. As menial as small job as it takes, if you don't track it down, you're not charging enough for the RO, right? Or you're not, so things like that is what they tell us and say, these are the things that take us time. These are the things that if we don't have to worry about it, we could do better. And it wasn't the same 2 years ago, like I said.
No.
So you guys are in the space too. It is like, what happens if a lot more EVs come in, right? Or, what is the landscape is going to change? But we got to be ready with what are the challenges 2026 or beyond going to come in. And having the data in the right place is going to prepare us to kind of say, okay, we can give you that analysis, or we can give you some insights into it.
Prasad Chavali, everybody, works with a number of our dealers here in Fixed Ops at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Um, Very important right now, especially in 2026, that we're paying attention to the data and how we can use it to our advantage. Um, Prasad, I imagine a lot of these tools are available now through the Axle Automotive platform. Tell us a little bit about, because I know you're coming to NADA next week in Las Vegas. Sarah and I are going to see you there. Tell us a little about what dealers can expect when they come see you there, and give us a little bit of insight on that.
So about a year ago, our product was reports, right?
Yeah.
A lot of data. It looks like dashboards, executive dashboard. It was kind of like looking a little old. And one of the guys challenged me and said, how are you going to make your product fully AI enabled? And I said, I have no idea. So this is the best. It was one of the guys that I keep talking to said, your system should say, stop running reports, start talking to your data. And I said, yeah, that makes sense. So how can you start talking to your data? That is through AI. So nobody's going to sit down and run 10 reports to find that information. The technology is moving so fast. Everybody's expecting not only when they search, it's not going to give the results. The AI mode is going to give you a few pointers. And so for an ATA, we're going to have a fully interactive demo where anybody can walk up to one of our four screens and start asking questions. So we will not do a scripted demo. So if you're a dealer and you go, these are the three questions I have. So they will ask the question to our expert and it will give the answers based on the simulated data we're going to set up. And then once if they see the answers are good, we can show them everything. So for NADA,
Wow.
our investment in the last 6 months been to create that self-driving demo because no two dealers or operators think the same. And we don't have a PowerPoint presentation for it because it will not cover every question they have. So it's going to be very interactive. Very excited about that layout. Four screens, any can come up to it, start talking to the data.
Sarah, you and I are going to see this in person next week at Axle Automotive at NADA in Las Vegas. Everybody, NADA booth number 6006N in the North Hall is where you'll find this. Now, Prasad, if those watching are not going to NADA, because some people are not going to go, can they get more information on the web? And is the website the best place to reach out? What do you
Yes,
suggest?
yes. In fact, we introduced the expert small icon on our website where you can start talking to a little bit. It is
Yeah,
only
interesting.
giving the questions answers from the content we have, and we're going to enable what we're going to enable at NADA on our website also end of the month. So whatever we're going to demo at the NADA, anybody can go to our website and start asking the same questions, including things like very deep questions like, how do I calculate my tech efficiency? Do you
Wow.
guys track actual clock hours and actual hours that are worked on RO, and how do you show that in a report? We want to go as deep as possible with that, as long as the data is simulated, because people should. It's very difficult for us to do a demo in a half an hour, right? Because who are you talking to? If you're talking to dealer owner, like, do you want to see the financial statement, fixed ops, what side of the business you want to look at? One of our strengths is the financial data. We do deep financial reporting, and guess what is the newest report we done is the like the remote servicing, like vans,
Oh,
mobile.
the mobile. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So there is a separate financial report and statement, and nobody has in the financial statement a separate number to show that revenue. So they're kind of like
Wow.
adding it to a regular revenue. So we build a report where you can see exactly how much you're doing on that side of the business and if it is making money or not, right?
Wow.
So as long as we can map the accounts and it's not available in the financial statements yet, pretty soon many of the OEMs are going to add that line saying that, hey, how much are you doing in store? How much are you doing, remote? But it's not hasn't made it a financial statement. So those kind of the reports we're building because industry is changing, right? A lot more people are doing that remote servicing.
Mobile service and remote services are a huge part of fixed operations now. Not so much 2 or 3 years ago, but it seems to be
Exactly.
growing great amounts every month. More and more dealers are finding ways to make that successful. Sarah, this is an exciting platform with a lot of extremely important information that dealers can capitalize on.
Lots of incredible information, Ted and Prasad. We're looking forward to seeing all of the great insights you'll share with us in the year ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. As I said, I know we talked for a little bit. There's a lot more to show, and looking forward to showing it in person at NADA. And then you'll be able to talk a little bit more like specific to one topic, because there's maybe 10 topics in fixed ops that I can talk about just that, right? About employee tracking or mobile services. So there is so much rich information in there. So it's not just easy to kind of tell
Well,
it in a
Prasad,
short.
we're going to plan on having those conversations with you, not just at NADA, but on upcoming roundtables as well later this year. Um, Axle Automotive, everybody, you can reach them on the web at axleautomotive.com. Prasad's email is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. You can see this all in person next week at NADA, booth 6006 in North Hall. Sarah and I will be there as well. And Prasad, congratulations to you. And this is extremely time relevant and at the top of the food chain right now for dealers. So congratulations on all the great work that you're doing for our dealers.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. See you soon.
Everybody, you'll be hearing a lot more about Axle, so stay tuned. Prasad Chavali, everybody. Axle Automotive, here with us today at the FixedOps Roundtable.
Thank you.